Mirabat. As Gordon said, I work for the Nature Conservancy. I'm the North America Cities Director. To my immediate right is Mashonda Taylor, who is the Chief Community Relations Officer at the Woodlawn Foundation in Birmingham, Alabama. And to her right is Scotty Feltman, who is the high school program director at Jones Valley Teaching Farm, also in Birmingham, Alabama. The missing link between us is right here. This is Francesca Gross.
Yes.
She is our urban conservation program director in Birmingham, Alabama for the Nature Conservancy. And before we get started talking to you all about talking to each other, I think, we're actually going to show a video. So can we please roll that video?
What happened to a dream deferred?
What happens to a dream deferred?
What happens to a dream deferred?
Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun?
For a long time, Woodlawn natives felt like their dream was deferred. They'd seen their city decline. You had a lot of the businesses move to other areas, and then you come along the late 80s, and it got really bad for the neighborhood. It was really rough. And then within the last 3-4 years, the community has said no more. We were once the pride and joy of Woodlawn and Birmingham, and we want that back. My name is Tashina Lee. I work at Woodlawn High School in Birmingham, Alabama. I am the coordinator for the early college high school program. The basic requirement is that you are a first-generation college student. We are focusing on a couple of career paths, environmental science being our main focus. We work with the Nature Conservancy and a couple other partners to make sure that the students have very rich experiences so that they can move forward once they have their college degree directly into their career pathway.
I'm a student at Woodlawn High School. I'm actually in the early college program, so we take college courses while we're in high school, and when we graduate, we'll graduate with our associate's degree. When I graduate high school, I'm going to be a doctor and family lawyer.
Right now, I think I'm going to do mechanical engineering or environmental science.
The Nature Conservancy's campaign is about urban areas and being able to spark the interest of nature and people. Because when you think about nature, you don't think about a city. And so we want to work together to bring that issue to life. And what better way or vehicle than to use your students? They are, as cliche as it may sound, they are our future. The Woodlawn area has a lot of vacant lots, abandoned homes. Our work with the Nature Conservancy has helped us to step in and revitalize these vacant lots. We had some landscape architects come in and show them several different designs, and so the kids actually decided which plants, which shrubs, which trees they wanted to plant there. Leading our students to invest in nature helps them invest in their neighborhood, and it empowers the entire community to want to be a part of something bigger.
I think it's going to be completely transformed from what it was from a vacant lot to a lot of trees, a lot of flowers.
It'll bring more people around, make it a better place, better community.
Once they see the beauty that they had a stake in creating, I think it's going to give them that sense that if I stick to this, then my life can too turn out beautifully.
What happens to a dream deferred?
Maybe it just sags like a heavy load.
Or does it explode?
Or does it explode?
Or does it explode?
We had a dream of returning Woodlawn back to its glory days. That dream is now being realized.
Should definitely know better than to show that because it always makes me tear up a little bit, even though I've seen it a whole bunch of times. And so, again, I work at the Nature Conservancy, and we're an international organization. We have so many national, international partners, and we're pretty new to cities work. We've been doing it in the US for about 4 years. We work in 24 cities. And what we know is that work in cities is local. It happens by and for communities and cities for the betterment of those communities, right? And so the areas that we work in include transforming city landscapes, which is a lot of greening, research, urban heat and air quality, and urban water. And the thing that these three areas have in common is we really focus on equity and community-based work. And we also focus very heavily on climate because that is where we are right now environmentally. And so we're here today actually to talk about some of the ways that we at TNC have been trying to resource work in communities in really different ways. And one outcome of this has been our strategic small grants. We have 3 different grants programs in our city's work here in the US. There's about $1.5 million a year that we put into this. In this particular one, this has been going on for 3.5 years now. We have 37 projects, and one is the project that these folks here have really led on over the last several years. And the way we think about these, we are not trying to fund projects, we're trying to fund partnerships. And we're not trying to fund outcomes, we're trying to fund process. And what's really important to us is good work, right? And so how do you know if good work is happening? Well, we ask the people who are doing it to define the metrics that they need, because we aren't gonna know those necessarily. Like, it's not on us to hold them to certain metrics, it's for them to tell us. And so we're gonna talk a little bit about this Birmingham work today and this amazing partnership between these 3 organizations. And I'm very honored to be facilitating. So let me talk to the 2 of you. Hi, Scotty and Nashonda.
Hello.
Nice to be talking to you on high stools in front of all of these lovely humans.
Right, high stools, short people.
It's our favorite way to have
Right.
conversations. Now that folks have seen this video and know a little bit about our work, your work, tell us briefly about your role, your partnership, your collaboration, co-creation, and what's changed from what people are seeing on this screen today.
So I'll start. My name is Mashonda Taylor. I'm the Chief Community Relations Officer for the Woodlawn Foundation in Birmingham. And just like they said in the video, the community, we started a huge revitalization effort about 8 years ago, rooted in community engagement and authentic conversations with our residents in the community. And a lot of times people think revitalization or gentrification as bad words. And I've heard a lot of different things about gentrification being said throughout the conference and the summit. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we were doing, when we started out the work in Woodlawn, we didn't want to do 2 or 4, we wanted it to do with. So everything from our community wellness initiatives, which deals with the green space, access to healthcare, wraparound services, or addressing house. So we have houses in the community or vacant land in the community. We made sure that we bought a good portion of the land and protected the land, because we knew that people wanted to develop in the land, and if we did not protect the land in the beginning, that there would be that displacement piece. That's the negative piece of gentrification that people don't talk about. We do want there to be economic development in the community, but we want to make sure that it's for the people and with the people in the community so they can benefit from it. So we were very strategic. So that cul-de-sac in Woodlawn, there were originally 8 houses on that cul-de-sac, and some of them we could not save. We had to basically demolish them, and we did not want there to be just vacant land. So to have a collaboration with the Nature Conservancy and partnership with our students to do a project with them and for them to design it, it meant that the residents were actually leading the charge, and it wasn't us dictating what would be there. So you have space, and now it's preventative of crime because it's not a blighted area, or it's not an area that's not being utilized, and people are now walking through there, and it's actual green space that's utilized by the community. So our role has really just been, we've been the landowners, and we've been basically strategic of like, okay, so what if we're going to develop there, but we're not ready to develop there, what can we temporarily put there in the space so the neighborhood doesn't have to suffer, because they deserve nice green spaces and things that they can actually walk to and do within their own community. And then as we were getting ready to transition, now we're looking for home ownership, and it will be a median income home ownership. So we've got affordable housing that we've built in the community. Now we'll take people that are living either in public housing or affordable housing and transition them into home ownership. and have a place for them to build their homes there. And then we will take what we've built on that land and transition to other places in the community.
Thank you.
Sorry, it's a lot.
It is a lot. That's awesome. Doing a lot is important. Can you tell us a little bit about the teaching farm and your role there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have an amazing job. I have a really cool job. I get to teach environmental science at a high school, Woodlawn High School, in the mornings, and then the afternoons I run a 2-acre urban farm with 8 interns from high school. That's a paid internship. So we do that. So the paid internships through the Jones Valley Teaching Farm, and that's a nonprofit in Birmingham, Alabama that works in specifically that Woodlawn feeder pattern, and we do nutrition, food, and culinary-based education in and after school that's provided by instructors from that organization, and a teaching space that we provided within that within the school systems. And then, as a Birmingham City Schools employee, I get to work in that environmental science department, and that's where I kind of got to work with the Nature Conservancy to begin with. Is that they hopped in right to the beginning and helped us put a bioswale in our farm. Also helped us do a walking orchard in our farm. And this was my first year there. We didn't have a farm; it was just an old empty practice field. And we partnered with the Nature Conservancy in that environmental science class to start working in those lots. And that was the cool part about that was that we came into the kids and said, you know, here's a couple of things that we've thought about doing, but what do you guys want to do? So if you could do anything in this spot, what would you do? And we took input from kids and took that to the next level by letting them help to design it by bringing in landscape architects and bringing in members of the community to say, look, here's possibilities. Is this something that you think you guys would like in your community? And if it is, you want to do it. And I looked at it as an opportunity as an educator to get kids involved, hands-on. I mean, and that's why I do what I do, because I feel like the best space for kids to teach is to do. And I've seen that work in what I do every day. So that partnership was amazing. Getting to see those kids get really invested in making those moves within their community was really cool. And then I get to see these young leaders that I'm growing at that farm every day, and that's an amazing process as well. And we were talking about like what's changed in our community in the past couple of years. I've been in that community for 11 years as an educator and 4 years at the high school. So I've seen kids grow up through these programs. I've seen these kids graduate that are on this video. And specifically, we speak to that like gentrification, and it's a big word, and I've seen it based on the fact that, my kids are juniors and seniors. And I literally saw 2 kids that work with me every day that I'm invested in, one that I've known since he was 10, get kicked out of their apartment complex because they couldn't afford the rent that happened when they did a renovation. So they had to find a place to move to. And I've gotten to see that like internal struggle that they have to deal with and be a part of that. So seeing members of this community that I'm seeing making an impact and that I see that are potential leaders in this community get moved because they can't afford what's coming in, that's when it really opened my eyes to see it and feel it through there. And I'm not even feeling it for real, honestly. I'm not. I'm just feeling it through them. And they just take it in stride and grow with it. So I've seen that happen. And I know what it's like, and I know what it's like for them, and I see their struggle. So, we continue to just help provide those wraparound services with the organizations like the Woodlawn Foundation and like the Nature Conservancy to do what we do. So I'm gonna stop for a second.
Yeah.
Let somebody else
even
talk.
To tack on to the students that were displaced, it's a neighboring community that's driven by business and industry. It's not driven by community development, it's more economic development. So you've got a lot of bars and coffee shops and things like that. So they've been displaced out of that area, which is right next door. It abuts right next door to the Woodlawn community. So we're trying to be protective of the boundaries and making sure that nobody else experiences that, and that we're addressing the need and making sure that people actually get to stay in their homes.
Because it's definitely like that. You can tell the next place it's going to be. Like, you
Right.
know. I mean,
Right.
and we're right in the middle of it, and we know that we're like primed for that because there's tons of homes that have great old bones in them. It's a cool spot. There's new stuff coming in. And we've seen that tidal wave coming towards this neighborhood. And like, part of that is how do we work with the people in the community to make sure that they get to maintain, an ownership of their community instead of having things done, at their community that they really don't have a choice in or voice in. So, part of what we're doing is trying to provide those, whether it's jobs after school or after they graduate, working on that. But there's a lot of wraparound things that we have to get right, and that I've learned mistakes that we've made and like things that we have to improve on in the future.
So let me tap into that a little bit. We've all heard about tons of cool environmental education programs, introducing kids to different parts of cities, giving them skills for life. I guess it's a 2-part question. What about this program is specific or unique that you want to tell folks about? And then also, because you brought it up and it's very tantalizing, We love success stories, but we learn from failure stories. And so is there anything either of you would like to think about, share with each other together? What hasn't worked and what have you learned from that? So sort of a two-parter, and maybe Scotty, you can start us off and then we'll move to Mashonda.
Okay, so what's kind of different about what we do, and I think why it worked and kids are so invested, is that, you know, we started before there was anything there, and we talked to the kids first, and we asked them, you know, what they would do if they had a farm at their school. We didn't just put a farm there and said, all right, now you guys are gonna be farmers. We said, here's an opportunity, are you guys interested in it? And if you could do it, what would it look like? So they got to look at it from blueprints all the way down to what perennials they were gonna put on the outside border, what function everything would have, why they're putting this here based on exposure, what do we need to do with the soil? So we started way back. And then one of those kids that started with that, and he's a young man that graduated there, so he was one of the people at the very beginning, like 7 years ago, when we went in and started designing it, and he's now our farm manager there. So it's about, you know, what I think we're doing differently here is making sure that this talent within this community has an opportunity to stay within their community and given these things. So like, specifically like urban farming is a thing that's happening. It's gonna happen in every city. And why are these kids that are already here, that are already familiar with the community, that can easily go to their neighbors and sell produce because they have an existing relationship with them? So why are they not the people kind of driving that? So that's kind of what inspires me to teach them this stuff every day. So that's what's been cool kind of with our work, I think.
Nice.
Oh, failures. Okay. God, we've had a lot. And it's been authentic failures. And because we put in a lot of groundwork, and when I say groundwork, not in an authentic way, we built relationships from the beginning. So that's neighborhood association meetings, that's community vision sessions, our visioning sessions, hosting dinners, really like doing life and being a part of the community and being welcomed into the community. And one of the things that happened that I was not really excited about, and I've had to really protect our residents from, there is an economic development organization that works alongside the Woodlawn Foundation, and their role is to basically fill vacant spaces in the business district of Woodlawn. So the residents from the beginning, one of the things that they said is they wanted a sit-down restaurant. This happened in 2010. They wanted a sit-down restaurant, but the hard part was trying to figure out where are we going to locate it? Is the business going to be successful? We're going to make sure that it's the right business owner and that it's actually representative of the community and what they want. The economic development entity did not have a conversation with us, and they put a very hipster coffee shop right on the corner, and the residents were like, this is not for us, and we're not going to go. And so you've got a lot of people coming into the community, which we want a diversity, but we want authentic diversity. We want to make sure that it's not taken away from the culture and the actual essence of what the community is, because there is one. I think a lot of times people like to say, well, if a community has blighted houses or that people don't care about the community, and that's not true. They just might not have the access or the resources to do whatever's necessary within their own community. So what we did is we bought a title box, which is basically, it was taken from the community, 400% interest rates on title loans. We bought the building. We collaborated with a small sandwich shop that everybody was going to in the community. And now we have a sit-down restaurant that's basically increased his sales, God knows % over, and that's what they wanted. So we have to listen. We have to be very careful about where we're putting things. Now that, because we put the relationship piece on the front end, there was a grace period there that they knew it wasn't our fault. But we also knew that we needed to be careful who our partners were. And if they were doing something in the community that we knew that was against what our residents said, that we needed to speak up and do our role and play our part in making sure that whatever they wanted came to pass.
Speaking to me, like almost on the other side. I don't necessarily feel like, oh, it's really easy for me to raise a lot of money to do the work I have to do, right? It's work, I feel it. But I do know that as somebody who works for an organization like the Nature Conservancy, doors are opened for me, and the ceilings are high for me, right? Like there's a lot I can get, there's a lot I can do that others necessarily cannot. And so that's an interesting power dynamic when an organization like the Nature Conservancy partners with an organization like either of yours. And as we've been building out these things like the strategic small grants or our partnership fund or our storytelling fund, like what we think, right? We're like, oh, we're gonna do this really great thing and it's gonna be easy. It is not easy, and it has unintended consequences, and it hits on both sides, but it hits harder on yours than on ours. And like, we try, and you try, and we're all doing our best, and I really appreciate what you said about like, if they trust you and you have that relationship, they give you that grace, and sometimes embedded in that grace is that power dynamic, right? Like, so that's complicated to be in relationship with. It makes me really think about how, you know, something as mundane as like signing contracts or something that we've had to do, like we push our lawyers as far as we can to what we think is a very equal contract, and it has so many consequences for organizations that are not our size, that don't have a stable of lawyers, that don't like, so what we think about too is how do we provide the wraparound services for the organizations that are doing the fundamental work that's valued in communities. And then it's a beautiful symmetry that then organizations like yours are trying to do the same thing, right? And so we're like creating these layers of an onion maybe, and like we struggle and we have these failures, and ultimately sometimes we build something lovely, sometimes we make lovely videos about them. And so we have just about a minute left, and so my final question for you both to answer briefly is, what do...
He's like very briefly,
okay, great.
like 2 seconds.
Just a couple thoughts then on what do constituents, neighbors, and students think about these changes, and what do they want for the future of Woodlawn?
They're hopeful. They are at the table and they're making decisions. We did a strategic plan about 5 years ago, and now we're going back to our residents and say, okay, we've done this is where we've done well, this is where we've not met our marks, what's next? So they're heavily engaged and they're at our table. Or no, we're at their table. Let me turn that around very quickly, because they'll see this and I'll be in trouble. But yes, we're at their table, and yes, done.
Scotty.
Yeah, so 7 seconds.
Right.
Use the talent that you have and develop the talent that's in your community, and don't forget that talent. That's my big takeaway from this, is use that. Don't forget about the people that are there. And that.
Thank you. Thanks, Scotty and Shonda. Thanks, Francesca. Love you.
Thank you, Francesca.